Libra raising concerns about privacy, data sharing, and national security. For more, let's welcome security expert Richard Clarke. He served as White House counterterrorism coordinator under Presidents Clinton and George W. Bush, and became the first White House cybersecurity chief. And his new book is titled The Fifth Domain: Defending Our Country, Our Companies, and Ourselves in the Age of Cyber Threats. Richard, thanks for joining us. I think these companies are really eventually more allies than enemies, are they not? Or do we just need to be very, very careful?
I think we need to be very, very explicit what we want out of them, what the standards are that we're thinking they should live up to. There are no international norms of behavior for social media companies. They say they're doing the right thing now, after 2016. What's the right thing? We have a process in this country where we pass laws, where we have regulations. If we're going to say these companies should do things other than what they want to do on their own, then we should have standards so that we can all agree on what those standards are, and then we can have some third-party audit to see whether or not they're doing it.
I think a light touch is required. We just said Congressman Frank on, and before the main part of the discussion, he was even talking about hate speech, that even hate speech you need a light touch on because of people's freedom to express what some people think are crazy ideas. But it's better than censorship. He mentioned in Germany, you can get thrown in jail if you deny the Holocaust. Which
this country is not Germany. This country is a country.
I understand. But do you agree it should be a light touch, or do you think?
I do. I think we should all know what that touch is.
Who's going to decide what the touch is? The devil's in the details.
So I think we have a process, right? If the Congress wants to set standards, they can do that.
You comfortable with Congress setting standards?
It does all the time, and you know that.
So I didn't say I was comfortable with it.
No, you are. You are comfortable with a lot of it, because otherwise you wouldn't be drinking clean water or breathing clean air. It's just a question of where the standards are, how we get to them. And this question of Libra. They want to be regulated by the Swiss Financial Authority, which I think is interesting. But, there is an issue here, potentially, of a problem with money laundering. And so we have an international group of like-minded nations called the Financial Action Task Force, which I used to work with. It sets standards internationally. Why don't we ask the Financial Action Task Force to set standards for Libra, not the Swiss?
So there is a path in your mind to getting a Libra-like digital currency.
There is a path, an international path that we've trodden before, to have like-minded nations, all the leading
I find that very encouraging,
to create standards for anti-money laundering.
Let me ask you a question. So Libra, which we're going to separate from Bitcoin, but because they're two very different things. However, Bitcoin has moved higher, though a little bit lower in the past couple of days, in large part on the back of this idea that Libra is going to be a great success, get people more interested in this world at least. As I was watching the testimony yesterday, thought to myself actually that if Bitcoin ever reaches some form of escape velocity, all of a sudden these regulators are going to be all over it, and therefore make it very difficult, especially when it comes to the issues of money laundering and everything else, because those are almost built-in feature sets of it, which is actually different than Libra, where at least there possibly could be more protections.
Right. So with blockchain, with Bitcoin, with Libra, I think we have to ask ourselves, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Why, aside from making some people who thought of the idea of money, nothing wrong with that, why are we creating this thing? And is there another way to solve that problem, whatever that problem is? They say the problem is the unbanked. Well, okay. How can we address the global unbanked, not just those in this country? Because they say it's
the unbanked,
for
and then
global.
there's the frictionless movement.
That's what I mean.
He wants it for commerce.
There's also
Kevin,
there's also the debasement of the currency by every central bank in the world, which is the real libertarian fervor of the Bitcoiners, is that they don't want to be the only thing that you have shouldn't be fiat that's tied to nothing, and it's not gold standard anymore. So that's the biggest thing.
That's fine. And if the government has a concern, and they're beginning to say that concern is money laundering, which finances all sorts of illicit activities around the world and is a national security problem. Let's have a dialogue about that. How do you do this Libra thing and satisfy the standards that we've had now for 25 years on money laundering.
But if you satisfy the standards on Libra, you still have Bitcoin out there.
And
I just don't think you can.
And you still have cash. You still have money laundering with cash. It might be a little bit easier.
Harder.
Well,
So
that's
what
a
do you
lot
think
harder, but it still happens.
So make a call on this. What do you think happens to Bitcoin? And by the way, the G7 is making this a big issue at their next meeting.
Libra, not Bitcoin.
Well, I think it's going to be a whole conversation. I think it's going to turn into a larger dialogue about crypto. And the question is which way it's going to cut.
There is a legitimate state need to worry about money laundering, given its relationship to organized crime, to international narcotics, to arms shipments, to all sorts of bribery of government officials around the world. If the government can satisfy itself, whether it's Bitcoin or
could it satisfy
Libra,
you?
I'd like to see what Facebook has in mind for those rules.
So here's a question I have as an investor that I'd like a problem. You asked me what problem are we trying to solve. Here's a problem. I want to take $1 million right now, and I want to wire it to London to buy 5 or 6 stocks in that currency, the British pound, because they're not participants in the euro. Do you know what a hassle that is to do? And this Libra promise is I could simply keep the $1 million in Libra, send it over there, use that currency to buy those equities, because I'm an investor. I really like that idea.
That's fine. Look, all I'm saying, it's not just about Libra, and it's not just about Bitcoin and blockchain. It's about technology in general. We rush technology to market, and then we worry about what bad people can do to it after the fact, whether that's 5G or quantum computing.
But when you say we, who are you talking about? I mean,
this
is done independently.
This economy. We Americans who invent things in Silicon Valley.
Isn't that a good thing?
It's a great thing that we invent them. It's a bad thing that we worry about the malicious use of them after the fact.
But we don't know till we put them in the market.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true.
Wow.
That is not true. If you brought any of these products that have security problems and security flaws to security experts before you brought them to market, those flaws could be identified. And in many cases, they are.
That's a very slippery slope you're going on, because if you stop innovation...
They might never be developed.
It never gets developed.
Oh, that's bullshit.
No, you make it really expensive to do it. That's the problem.
No, you don't. No, that's a myth.
Well, in hindsight,
that's a myth.
all these
That is all a myth propagated by people who just want to rush things to market. Oh, it'll stop innovation. Oh, it'll raise costs. There's no empirical basis for saying that.
Look at Europe. There's no innovation over there in tech. It's because it's regulated right out of the economy.
There's a lot of reasons there's no innovation. It's certainly not because they're worrying about built-in security.